If you are a busy woman scrambling to pursue your passions, your goals, and your dreams while also having a meaningful personal life, this show is for you. We have Ashlee Stratton here, who is speaker, author, and coach, ready to give you tips, strategies, and tools on the practical patterns and the mindset that you need to thrive in this day and age. Welcome to Make It Happen. Welcome to today's segment on Pick My Brain. If you have a question, you can send it into Michelle@speakmichelle.com. Put Pick My Brain in the subject line. Today's question comes from Kimberly Hughes, and she asked the question, how do I convince myself to move forward if I'm in paralysis? I feel like I don't know everything yet, and so I'm having a hard time moving forward. Well, fellow perfectionist here, sometimes it can be really hard to move forward when you don't see the entire path, and yet it's actually impossible to see everything that may come your way. Whether you're someone who's just getting started in pursuing a passion or a goal, or if you're a busy working individual who also has lots of other things that they're trying to pursue, and you're multifaceted with your health, with your personal life, with your professional life, with your friends and your relationships, there can be a lot of different aspects of things that you want to pursue. And yet sometimes that paralysis or feeling like you don't know everything will hold you back. So here are my recommendations. Number one, give yourself permission to do some research and to figure out some information, but give yourself a time limit at the same time. So sometimes when I find myself like I'm in the middle of a project right now, I know I need to move forward on it. I wanted to do a little bit more research, and I told myself, Michelle, you have until the end of the month. You can research anything. You can ask people for testimonials. You can look into different aspects of what this would look like for you and your business, but you have until the end of the month to make a decision. Now, that's actually kind of a big window, and 2 weeks or 3 weeks could be a long time if you're looking at a short decision. This is actually a bigger decision with a big number and dollar amount that is affecting me. And so I'm giving myself some time to do some research, but I'm not allowing myself to be held back by moving forward. So if it's a short decision, give yourself a day or a week and say, okay, I'm going to think about that for a day, and then make a decision and move forward. So do some research, do what you need to, but don't do it forever. Number two, I recommend getting started and trying. Often your path will go in a different direction anyway because of the things that you know at the place that you are right now. So I live by the principle, make decisions about what you know now, and then when you know differently, make decisions from there. So it's hard to know all of the different twists and turns that may come as you pursue the things that you care about most, but move forward and keep trying, and then make different decisions along the way. And the last thing that I'll say is take heart. You're not alone. Lots of people have struggles and challenges pushing forward and moving past. And so know that you've got other people and out there that you can talk to, that you can chat with, and maybe get some accountability so that you can feel confident in moving forward. I'm cheering you on in your goals and dreams and wishing you the best. And again, thank you for sending in a question to Pick My Brain. I'm excited to announce the 10th year of the Marketing Blueprint Workshop. Sometimes I cannot even believe that I have been doing this for 10 years. It's almost like its own baby. For a decade, I've been helping small business owners, marketing teams, individuals in direct sales, and entrepreneurs create their marketing plan and set them up to succeed for the new year. If you give me 2 days, you will leave with a completed marketing plan, complete with content structure, social media strategy, focused goals and objectives, and a crystal clear view about your target market and the messages that will match that market. I hope that you'll spend some time with me. Find me in November 17th and 18th. You can come to the beautiful Provo, Utah, and join us live, or you're also welcome to join us virtually. Find the details about pricing and information at marketingblueprintworkshop.com. Use code MIH for Make It Happen to get an additional $200 off for a limited time. Grab that code MIH and save yourself $200 on any one of those tickets. I can't wait to see you at the Marketing Blueprint. I am very excited for today's conversation with Ashlee Stratton, who I recently just met a couple months ago even, and I'm excited to get to know more about her, but I've been following her for the last 3 or 4 months and just excited about how she's showing up in the world. Ashlee is a powerful woman who is passionate about helping women and moms put first things first and make their priorities in the right place while also pursuing their passions. Ashlee, welcome to Make It Happen.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
I love this conversation too, because I know that as a woman and a mom myself, I have struggled with figuring out the balancing act or the juggling act or whatever people are calling it these days of being a woman who has a lot of priorities, and it's not just one or two things. So I'd love for you to start with, how did this become a passion project for you? How did you know this was something that you were really interested in?
I'm so glad you asked that, because my story is my journey and it's led me to where I am today. So when I was in my late teens, I was super involved in so many things. I mean, I was doing student government, I did pageants, and then I went to college and I stayed involved on campus. I was in student leadership and I took some speaking classes from Dan Clark, who is absolutely incredible if you know him. And this gave me a window into the speaking world. And I had some unique opportunities to have some speaking jobs early on in my life. I spoke at leadership conferences and I spoke for a company that helped women who really struggled with rape prevention. I was hired to go speak to group homes at that time. And I realized for the first time that my voice could make a difference. And I was so excited, and I could actually set goals and accomplish them. I could get home from school and work and I could go straight to the gym. I could do whatever I wanted. And then I got married and had kids, and it kind of rocked my world. It seemed like I would try to set goals and go after them, like even just simple things like losing the baby weight, and I could not figure out how to do it while having children. And these little people came into my life and I was like, oh my gosh, these people are so important to me. I don't want to set them on the back burner. And then social media was getting traction while I was a young mom. And I would see other moms out there pursuing their goals and their passions and starting their businesses. And I'm wondering, how in the world do they do that? But I also wondered, are they doing it at the expense of those most important things? Like, are they putting themselves all into their business and all into their marketing and letting all of those most important things fall off the bandwagon? Like maybe their faith, or maybe their family, or maybe their health. And I wondered, how are they doing it? Because I couldn't figure it out for myself. And so I always had a dream on my heart after taking Dan Clark's classes and being a speaker early on in my life, that I knew that that's something I wanted to get back into. And it kind of just slipped to the wayside when I became a mom because I couldn't figure out how to balance it. So the past about 3 years, I've started interviewing moms who are pursuing a passion or pursuing a goal or a business. And I've been asking them this question: how do you put those most important things first and still go after your goals? And so far, I've asked all of them if it's possible, and 100% of them have said, yes, it is possible. And I found patterns that are showing up again and again in a lot of these women's lives that are trying to put their families first and those most important priorities while still pursuing their goals. And I've been speaking about it and sharing about it the past about 2 years as I've been gathering some of this research. And it's ongoing. I'm still learning. I'm still trying to gather those patterns, but I have noticed some of those similar things showing up. And so that's how I got to where I am today. It's really just been my story and my journey of trying to figure it out and then share that with other people, because I've realized a lot of the women have this same pain point of, how do I do it all? How do I balance like my family and my health and my business? And so it's been a really fun journey. I've learned a lot of neat things and interviewed some cool people, and I just absolutely love it.
Awesome. I love that. Well, I'd love to talk about some of those patterns and the things that you've learned. And really, I want to start with time. I think that's the first thing that most women, moms struggle with when they're looking at their various roles. What are some of the patterns or some of the tips or strategies that you recommend to your clients, or when you speak about the time aspect of being someone who has all these roles? Okay.
There's 2 or 3 things that immediately come to mind. So number one, when Stephen Covey was still living, I had the wonderful opportunity to speak to him and have lunch with him. And I asked him, I said, he's the author of The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. If you don't know who he is, there's a chance that someone out there doesn't know. But he was also named one of the most influential people in the world by Time Magazine. So he dedicated his life to studying successful people and their habits. So I asked him, I said, what is the number one tip that you would give to someone who is pursuing a goal and wanting to be successful in it? And he said, without missing a beat, he said, plan your weeks. And I was so shocked by that, because I thought he was going to tell me some secret, some magical rainbow unicorn sauce, but it wasn't. It was plan your weeks. And so ever since then, I've just every single Sunday night, I have a timer that goes off on my phone. A reminder at 9 p.m. And for about an hour, I spend an hour and I plan my weeks. But the first thing that I plan are those most important roles, like being a mom and who I want to show up as spiritually and with my health and with my husband. And my husband and I actually sit down and do it together. We plan when's going to be our date night. We plan those things first. And then I plan all my other roles, like as a speaker, as doing my influencing stuff, doing things on my website. I plan those things. So that's the first thing I'd say, is to plan your weeks. The second thing I would say is to be consistent, even if it's just a little bit of time. A lot of the moms that I've worked with, that this is the biggest struggle that they deal with, is they don't have time to work on the things that they need to, because they're being pulled in so many different directions. And I was able to interview Melinda Franson. She's the owner of Tobique Travel Bags, and her family loved to go and travel. They loved to go on adventures like camping and to the beach and just be out in the outdoors. And she said one night she was out on a camping adventure with her family. She had 4 kids, and the baby's waking up in the middle of the night. She can't find the burp cloth. She can't find her binky. And she started crying because everything was so disorganized. She's like, that's it. I need an organized travel bag. And so she went to find one, but she couldn't find one that she liked. So she decided to create her own. And she's told me, she said, Ashlee, I didn't have a lot of time to create this travel bag and this business, but I was consistent. She said, when my daughter takes a nap, then I'll work on my business for 1 hour. That's all she had, was 1 hour a day to work on her business. And she said it took her 2 years just to get a prototype of the bag in her hands. And then another 2 years after that to make it a successful, thriving business. Now she has multiple colors of the bag. She just pitched it to REI that they're probably going to sell it in her stores. She has multiple different travel items that she sells, but she was consistent over the long haul. I think sometimes when we don't see those results, like within weeks or even months, it can get really, really frustrating, and you can get really down on yourself and mentally beat yourself up. But if we can be consistent, even in little bits for the long term, it really pays off.
I love that. I live by both of those principles as well. I got my first Franklin Covey day planner when I was 12 years old, and was in the habit of regular planning and weekly planning. And that has just been something that's been a mainstay for me. And I know that lots of people use that, and the consistency that you speak of is important too. We talk a lot about, even in the marketing world, but also with my executive coaching clients, about the regular activities bring regular results. And sometimes we have a struggle when we're just sporadically doing things, and we think we're just sneaking in a minute here or sneaking in a minute there. But if you can find some routine and some consistency to that, it can really supercharge your results. So I appreciate you sharing both of those things in a way that I got to think about them in a little bit different way as well.
Yeah,
I want to talk a little bit about mindset, because I think that there are a lot of women out there who would say, I am planning and I am being consistent, and maybe there's a number of different things that are happening in their mind. I'm not getting results fast enough, or I still feel guilty about the time that I spend away from my kids. What thoughts or ideas do you have for someone who is battling the mental head game of someone who is passionate about lots of things?
I love you brought that up again. There's 2 things again that I want to talk about with this. I have a friend who has a shredding journal, and that's where you just go and you just write your thoughts down, and then you rip up the journal, whatever you wrote, and you throw it away. Sometimes our thoughts just need to be acknowledged, because there are these monsters in our heads that can grow and grow and grow. And trust me, I've had them. And sometimes if I can just get them out on paper and I can just shred them up, and just nobody's going to know these thoughts except for me. But once they're acknowledged, it's almost like they seem to disappear. So just shredding them up and doing that. I had another experience early on, a practice that I've continued to use. And this, I know that this might sound like one of those hokey dokey things that people do, but it's really worked for me. I had the opportunity to perform at Capitol Theater, playing the piano. I was nervous out of my mind. It was one of the biggest performances I have ever done. And my hands would just shake when I'd play the piano in front of people, and let alone like hundreds of people. I was so nervous. And I remember talking to my piano teacher about it at the time. She was helping me get ready. She was coaching me along. And She was like, Ashlee, you need to write the affirmation cards of exactly what you want to have happen at this performance. And so I wrote down, she's like, don't write things like, I don't want my hands to shake, because then you have the words shaking that are going to come out in your mind. So she's like, write strong fingers or strong placement, the words that you want to come out. And so I wrote those things down. I'd write, I want strong fingers. I want peace. I want a calm mind. And then I'd read them every single day before I'd practice the piano. And she's like, even write things down like you want to, like visualizing what you want the audience to do after you're done. And I visualized the audience jumping to their feet and clapping after I was done. Even though that didn't happen, like that's what I wanted to visualize. That's the feeling that I wanted to create. So I wrote down these affirmation cards and I'd read them every single day. And then when I went and performed on stage, I played that piece flawless, like the best I've ever played that day. But it was because I had mentally prepared and exercised my brain before I got there. And I think that we can do that wherever we have to show up and perform. I was even doing it even before this podcast. Like I was thinking, okay, how do I want to show up for this podcast? And I was thinking, I want to show up confident and well-spoken and like a speaker. You know, I'm continually telling myself like, how do I want to show up? And then you write those things down, you visualize it over and over again. Again, that consistency factor comes up. I feel like our thoughts it's like our brain is a muscle and we can train it. We can work it just like we do our bodies, but it takes practice and consistency. And some people might think, oh, that's just like some hokey dokey thing, you know, but I have found that it works in my life. When you practice those thoughts, the way you want to show up, it really makes a big difference.
What I love about you, what you shared is it was kind of like out with the bad habits that are not serving you and in with the good, like out with the bad thoughts, in with the good thoughts, so that you can dual use it and not just get rid of the things that aren't working, but also what are you doing to replace those thoughts that help you to feel?
It's a practice. It's so hard. It's not easy. Like if you do it one day or maybe 2 days, you're probably not going to see results. Just like if you're going to the gym 1 or 2 days or 7 days, you have to do it again and again and again to fight those thoughts that are eating you alive, the monsters in your head. It's a practice just like your physical body is.
Yeah, you're right. I love that. Okay, so let's go here for just a minute. As you are thinking about juggling different roles and as with the work that you do as women, what are some rituals or habits that you have seen women put in place to increase connection with their kids, regardless of how many hours in a day they get to spend with them?
So one thing that I love and that I teach to the women that I work with is involving your kids on some level with whatever you're doing. And it might be a lot of times like this, like doing a podcast or going out and doing a keynote. My kids can't physically be there with them, but I can share the journey. I can share what I'm doing. I can share that, hey, I have a podcast coming up, or hey, I have a keynote coming up, and here's what I'm going to share. And I've even done that where I've asked my kids to sit on my bed and I'll give them my keynote speech. And then we have wonderful conversations afterwards about it. And I've noticed over and over again that all of the moms that I interview, they involve their children on some level in their goals. It might be packaging products. I've talked to moms who have their kids exercise with them, that teach yoga. I've had moms that let their kids sew with them, that run seamstress businesses. I've talked to several moms who are shipping out stuff and their kids are involved in the fulfillment side of that, involving them on some level. And I had a really tender experience even with my 7-year-old. Several months ago, I was on a high profile podcast and I was a little bit nervous. And I just shared with my kids, hey, I'm going on this podcast and I'm feeling nervous. They couldn't be there, but I could still share with them the real feelings that I'm having about it. Let them know, yeah, mom's doing this, but I'm still a human, you know? And so I shared this with my 7-year-old. And she's like, Mom, that's just like the speeches you give. She's like, but it's just in front of a computer. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's kind of true. It is, right? And she just totally built me up in that moment. And it was just such a sweet moment that I shared with my daughter. So I've noticed that a lot of these moms, they involve their kids on some level, even if they can't be present at the event of what they're doing.
I think that's so great. I think that we as humans, even, we need to be better at not feeling like what we're doing, they can't relate to, because we have to pattern for them what healthy adulting looks like. And healthy adulting looks like, hey, it's work sometimes, and I'm nervous sometimes. And I still have to get things done even when I don't want to sometimes. And so as we involve them and help them, instead of putting them in a silo or separating them for what we do, what they are doing, they're also learning patterns and behaviors that can be healthy later on, while also feeling a sense of ownership. I had an opportunity to take my son with me on a speaking engagement. It was local, and a lot of times I'm on a plane and I don't bring them along, but he came with me, and I had him come and take pictures. And I also had him help me at my table. And we were talking about it the night before. I was sharing with him how it would work. And there will be people who are going to buy books. And I share just some different things about it. And then afterwards, he was like, holy cow, I didn't know it was going to be like that. Like, it was kind of crazy for a little bit. And I was really, really busy. And so it also gave him an opportunity to see that there are some crazy moments and there are some things that happen. And he, in a way that was respectful to and like insight into a respect for what I do. It was fun to have that experience with him so that he could see what that's like. And now he can imagine a little bit more about when I say I'm going to speak and what that looks like. And he can be a little bit more supportive as well. So I love
it.
All of that.
And he'll be more prepared too to enter the workforce or enter his dreams because he's done it already with mom. He'll be more prepared to talk to people and not as afraid because he's done it with mom. So I think it prepares our children for adulthood in a way that they would otherwise never be prepared.
Yeah, I love that. We've talked about different patterns. We've talked about mindsets, and we've talked about involving our kids and helping them feel connected to what we do. Are there other aspects of this life and juggling act that you feel like we should address, or that you wish every busy mom would know?
Yeah. Two things, again, come to mind. One is the power of writing your goals down. And I think a lot of us listening, if you're a women entrepreneur, you're probably good at writing them down. But I think the kicker where we falter a lot is reviewing the goals daily. Are we putting them in front of them where we'll see them every single day? Grant Cardone, he's author of the 10X Rule and Self-Made Billionaire. He said he writes his goals down once in the morning and once at night. And I read of several successful entrepreneurs who say they write a list of their top 10 goals every single day. Brian Tracy said he'd have a list of his top 25, and he'd keep it folded up in his wallet, and he'd look at it every single day. I think there's a reason that people do that, so they're constantly reminded of where they're going. A lot of the women that I've interviewed, every single one of them knew where they were going. And I think it's because they're constantly reviewing. They're constantly saying, this is the mountain I'm going to climb. This is where I want to go. So if we put it in a notebook somewhere and fold it up and just put it away and never look at it, we'll probably get busy with our lives and just maybe glance at it every couple of months. We have to have that continual constant reminder of where we want to go. And then the second thing is, this sounds cliche, but all of the women that I've interviewed, their side passions, their side hustles that they're pursuing have brought them an immense amount of joy. And so many women, I think, get burnt out because what they're doing doesn't fulfill them enough. And there's already so many things about pursuing a business that are like the grind, the things that we don't really love. Like even this podcasting, I'm sure you love interviewing, connecting with people, but there's the sides of it that's the grind. That's not very fun, but it's still fulfilling. It's so joyful to go out and share this message. That's what keeps you showing up day in and day out. So even if you're listening and you're like, oh man, what is it that I want to pursue? I would really invite you and encourage you to pursue something that brings you joy, because will be pieces of it that are not fun and that are the grind and that you just have to do because it's part of the package. But if you have that ultimate joy that comes from it, it'll keep you going on those days that are really hard.
I love that. I think those are great reminders as well. You spoke to something that is one of my passion subjects, and I'm wondering what thoughts you have on it. So I see women who have passions and interests that they love. They pursue them. They're doing well. And we all have moments where we're not doing great, and the juggling and the balancing act is off balance, and we have to get ourselves back on track. But I also find women who, even in the pursuit of their passions, do experience burnout. Mm-hmm. And they get to a place where it's like, and some of them to a point that is almost so extreme that they question, why did I even do this in this first place? Or what am I doing? Or why am I doing it? And sometimes those extreme moments bring women to some dark places. Mm-hmm. So my question for you is, if we can't avoid the burnout, if that just happens at some point or sometime, what do you recommend to get yourself out of that burnout mode and back into a place of passion and purpose?
Okay. I just learned the most wonderful time management tip to avoid burnout that I've never heard before. So I am taking a course right now from Allison Prince, and she shared a time management tip that I absolutely loved because she's worked with thousands of women, and she said they burn out. So she recommends planning your week, like I mentioned earlier. She said, plan those most important things first, like the time you're going to work on your business. You wanted to plan those, she's like, in your hour chunks and your doctor's appointments, that the things you absolutely have to show up for, you cannot miss. And then she's like, and then I want you to cancel one of them. And I want you to do nothing during the hour, but go sit on the back porch and listen to the birds sing. And she's like, do nothing. She's like, just let your thoughts wander, your mind go crazy, because if not, she's like, you will burn out. She's like, I've worked with enough women that they just grind and hustle for so long and they never take a break, and then they burn out. And I experienced this in a very real way. When I started first pursuing speaking, I was just grinding, hustling, and reading everything I could get my hands on, learning from other speakers. And I went on a trip to Lake Powell, and I came home from that trip and I never stopped rocking. Like my head was on this like stormy ship. And I started getting so dizzy during the day, and I started experiencing vertigo, and I started running into walls. I started forgetting groceries at the grocery store. I'd lay down and go to sleep at night, and my head would be banging so bad I couldn't sleep. I started experiencing insomnia for the first time in my life. And I had to just quit almost everything I was doing just to take care of my physical health. And I learned afterwards, after I started getting medical help and found out there was nothing wrong with me, had MRIs, like went to a brain treatment clinic, spent thousands of dollars there trying to get better. And I realized that I was having a physical manifestation of burnout. Truly, I was not taking time to stop ever. I wasn't slowing down, and it manifested in a physical way. Now I have to take breaks. I have to do those most important things, but I have to stop, actually, for me at some point every day for about 15 minutes. I can't just do it once a week like she recommends, which I think is wonderful, but I have to do it every day. I have to just mentally take a break and go walk my dog around the block a few times. So I think intentionally planning and scheduling time when you're just like letting everything else go and just letting your mind wander, just having those times that are scheduled where you just don't do anything else and just have a actual physical and mental renewal.
Awesome. I couldn't agree more. I found myself at the beginning of this year busier than I've ever been, and my business has grown, and I'm so grateful for all of that. And also I found myself just getting tired of being so busy. I got used to working less, and it was great. And now I'm busy, which is what I've always wanted. Mm-hmm. And I found myself going, wait, this isn't very fun anymore. And I had to completely revamp and look at my schedule differently. And one of my favorite things in the world is going to the movies in the middle of the day while my kids are at school. For whatever reason, that just feels like a luxury. And it's also a place where I can wind down because I can't be on my phone. I can't answer calls. I can't email people in the theater. Though I have done it a couple times. Don't tell anyone. But for whatever reason, that time, like sitting in a movie theater for 2 hours once a month, like I can see it on my calendar. I know when it's going to happen. I often go by myself. I don't care if there's a friend. Like just knowing it's there makes everything else work because I know I'm giving myself a priority. And of course, there's other little things that you talked about. There's some rituals that I do in the middle of the day just to know that I can decompress. Mm-hmm. And I think it's so important to both plan them and then also have some on hand that when you catch yourself in a place that you struggle, that you're like, okay, the art of the pause is taking a break. What do I need? And honoring that and not barreling through. I see so many women who push themselves and push themselves and push themselves into burnout when just a little break here and there could actually be a saving grace. So I love your thoughts there.
It's so hard to show up for the break, at least for me and people who have a personality that likes to go, or like you that likes to do, like you've always wanted to be so busy and have a thriving business. It's actually harder to show up for the breaks than like anything else.
Mm-hmm.
But when you can remember that it contributes to your overall success, I think it makes it a little bit easier. Even Brendan Burchard, he talks about how he's studied thousands of successful coaches and entrepreneurs. And he said you're most successful even when you plan your day in 50-minute increments and then take a 15-minute break. And so I've even tried to do that lately. Like I'll notice even after an hour, my mind starts to wander and I'm like, oh yeah, it's time for that break. And then I come back renewed and I can get more done in the next hour by taking that little break.
Awesome. Well, Ashlee, thank you for being here on Make It Happen. Where can people find more about you and what do you have coming up?
I love it. Well, the thing I'm most excited about is I have a book coming out and coming up in the next couple of months. It's all about this topic on how to pursue your goals as a mom and still put those most important things first. And you can find me, you can find that book on ashleestratton.com. You can connect with me on social media at Real Ashlee Stratton on Instagram and at Ashlee & Co on Facebook.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. We're cheering you on and your goals and dreams and your passions as well. And we wish you all the best.
Thank you so much.
Welcome to a few of my favorite things. If you have watched this show or you know me at all, you know that movies are truly one of my favorite things. A few episodes ago, we talked about a few of my favorite 80s movies. And so today I thought I would do another little theme on some of my favorite romantic comedies. Now, this is my favorite genre of movie, probably. 80s is probably my favorite, and this is probably second. And so it's really hard to give you my only three favorite. However, I am going to share three with you today in no particular order. And we're going to go back in the archives a little, at least back into the 90s to Runaway Bride. 1999, it wasn't that long ago, but seriously, if you think about it, it's like a 23-year-old movie. But it's timeless and classic because I just love that Julia Roberts. I used to have dreams about Julia Roberts like she was my friend, and she's clearly not, and I've never met her before in my whole life, and now you think I'm a weirdo, but here is one of my favorite movies. I am a huge fan of clean romantic comedies, and this one definitely fits that bill. I also laugh a lot, Duckbill Platypus, and when and her dear friend who's Joan Cusack, is actually one of my very favorite characters in the entire show. So this is a fun comedy if you are looking for a little flashback. Now, this is a little bit more recent. I don't even know if I can find the year on this one, but The Proposal is really a must watch, okay? I find this movie so incredibly funny, and I also love watching any kind of moments. And similar with Runaway Bride, like I love watching characters change. So I love how someone at the beginning is different than how they are at the end, just through that redemptive process of being a human. And so this is one of those fun ones where you get to see Sandra Bullock start pretty stiff, and then she ends up kind of soft and awesome in the end. And Ryan Reynolds, I mean, you really can't go wrong with a little Ryan Reynolds. Okay, this currently I would say is my very favorite romantic comedy because you get two in one. Okay, there's two stories that are happening in this movie. I love Jack Black. He's hysterical in the show. I'm all about the comedy. It can't just be about the romance for me, though I do love Hallmark Christmas movies, and they really aren't very funny at all. It's just a sappy love story sprinkled in with like an explosion of Christmas decorations. Those are coming up, by the way, and I am thrilled and excited, but this is also a holiday movie. However, I will say that we watch this all year round. So while this is a fun flashback for the holidays, I do love watching it all the time. Just a fun, cute, little quirky couples trying to figure each other out, but then also trying to see each other for who they really are. And I am always a fan of that. So welcome to my not at all business helpful favorite things, but there you go. Watch one and tell me some of your favorites. I'd love to hear in the comments below. I love the conversation with Ashlee. I can tell that she and I would be soul sisters in the real world, and I'm excited to pursue that relationship with her. But I am more excited about the strategies and tactics that you're going to take from this episode into your life so that you can make it happen. Today was all about individual ideas and practices that you can put into place now. Remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about showing up and trying to become the person that you want to be. We're cheering you on in your goals and dreams. Thank you for being part of Make It Happen. I would be honored if you would leave an honest rating or review so that others who are looking for good shows and podcasts might find this because of your recommendation. Thank you for giving me this time, but I'm also cheering you on in what you do. Make it happen.